All right, we're here with Valerie Sheetz. Valerie coming live to us from Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yeah,
Near and dear to Megan's heart. Megan's a proud alum. And so I thought it'd be fun to have Valerie on to talk a little bit about herself. And also, I'm sure many of you have noticed at Covenant, we have a new mural in our narthex, which was painted by Valerie. So wanted to hear a little bit about that too. So first, Valerie, just tell us sort of not literally where you are now, but where you are and what you're doing this fall at Liberty.
okay. So I'm a junior at Liberty, and this year I still have like the basic classes, but I'm working with painting and um, a lot of other challenging art classes that I enjoy, and a lot of history classes this year, a lot of history classes. And I am also a manager for the women's wrestling team. So that's kind of like a side gig, so to speak.
Nice.
And yeah, that's where I am at Liberty.
And
I'm
what's your major?
I'm a studio art major.
Studio art. Nice.
Studio art. So the fine
Nice.
art, mostly dealing in like painting, drawing, and sculpture.
That's that. So
Fun.
that's a great lead in then. And I've known that obviously you've been into art for a long time. You have an artistic ability, which I certainly do not have. So the mural in our narthex, and I'll put a picture up so everyone can see it. But sort of how did that come about? And just sort of, I guess, what was the process of sort of creating that from literally a sort of bare white or off-white wall to sort of an artistic mural?
Yeah. So Mrs. Griffith approached me and told me that the deacons had talked about wanting to put something there, and they kind of already had the scripture in mind. And so all of my kind of rough ideas came from that scripture, um, which I don't remember it completely off the top of my head, but it is about like God pouring his love out for us in his blood. And I'm like reading this verse and I'm like, how am I going to make this a mural without it being like scary? you know, like we don't want
Yes.
to scare anybody, but I also wanted it to be truthful in how serious it is, and how real it is. And so I don't really know. I did a few thumbnail sketches and I ended up landing on the idea of I wanted it to be like a communion cup. And I wanted there to be a lot of symbolism too, because I'm like, with symbolism, you can get the idea, but it's not, I'm not painting blood on the wall. Um, so I was like, well, I don't want it to be like, there was talk about flowers. Like they were like, maybe like just like frame in flowers. And I'm like, yeah, but it, during Christmas time, that might look weird, having just like summer and spring
Right.
flowers everywhere. And so I was like, you know what? What about like red roses? Like no one just thinks like summertime when they see red roses because there's already a lot of symbolism tied to a red rose. And with the crimson rose, it can be symbolic as blood as well. So I wanted those to be coming out of the communion cup and a few petals falling to the ground. And I was like, oh, that might be like enough to get the message across with the verse. But then I was looking at it and I was like, it still wasn't plain enough,
Yeah.
in my opinion, of like straight to the point, like Christ did this. So I I kind of thought about adding a crown of thorns in with the flowers. Um, and I kind of played with that to try to see if I liked how it looked. And I ended up liking the final sketch that is in the on the wall right now. That
So
was kind of my thought process on how that came about.
yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really cool to hear you talk about it. I mean, I could probably look at it and guess some of the symbolism, but I mean, I think it's a great point that yeah, it's hard to balance those things without being too overly dramatic or violent, even though the death of Christ certainly was violent and dramatic.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it was a good balance. So as like a non-artist, it sounds to me like you probably, and I'm just interested in this. So these are probably silly questions, but it sounds to me like you would, you would draw it out on a piece of paper.
Mhm.
And then I know I actually saw you at church with chalk, I think. Was it chalk
Yeah,
or
it
on
was it
the
was
on the wall drawing it and then painting? Is that sort of how it works?
yeah, I to be honest with you, I was terrified when they asked me to paint on a wall.
Yeah.
But I've painted on my bedroom wall. So if I mess it up, who cares? It's only me looking at it. But I, other than that, I was not very familiar with doing a mural. But I'm very blessed. Like some of you may know Mary or remember Mary, but her mom like does this. Like she paints murals. So I was very blessed to gain some insight from her and the do's and don'ts. Like make sure you get this kind of paint and don't get this and here's how you should sketch it out and all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, it started out as like the very preliminary is just kind of brainstorming. I write and scribble things that I think will go together, and then very rough sketches. I'm like, I hate that. I hate that. This ain't bad. Oh, I want to take this and use this, and you kind of plan it out on paper, and then you choose it, and then from there, yeah, you draw it on the wall. I chose my colors, which was hard because you choose your colors, but you need to be careful about what colors you choose because colors will look different depending on what they're next to. So I
Mm.
had to take into account, the red chairs that are in there, the carpet and the wall color itself. So I was like, oh, I don't want this to look like a sticker.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No,
so
I think that's a good point because it looks like a painting. I mean, so it doesn't look so sort of, I don't know what the word is, but it doesn't look like a
like in the
sticker.
line, like I didn't
Right.
want it to look like outlined like I
Yeah.
I I'm stumbling over my words to describe this too, but I didn't want it to look like a sticker. Like I wanted it to look like a miniature mural because it doesn't fill up a wall, but like it was hand painted
Right.
is what I wanted it.
Right. Yeah, I think we talked about this, and I'm sure you remember that in the church in Brigantine where we stayed, that mural on the wall in that church of Noah's Ark. I think I can put up a picture of that too. And I think we joked about it this summer uh, because I have a picture of you in front of that mural and just how terrible like and scary that mural is.
So
Uh
scary.
yeah, and you're right. It's a hard thing to do. And it's like and I'm not an artist, but I can imagine it's one thing to like do your thing, but another thing to do it on a wall at church where like
Yeah.
people are going to see it. And but like I said, I think you did a great job and captured that verse very well in a way that um like I said, like I've seen so many just bad murals at churches. And so when they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna put a mural up, I was like, what? A mural on the wall there? And then they're like, Valerie's gonna do it. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm sure it'll be good then. And
Oh,
and I think it's a really cool thing to have that. Um so going to Liberty, being a Christian, being an artist, which again, oftentimes those two things don't line up: Christianity and studio art. I think I don't we don't need to get into all of that, but I'm sure, as you know, like a lot of artists around the world are not Christians. In fact, are very probably would be opposed to a lot of what we believe. But as a Christian and an artist, how do you see those things working together? And then like, do you have any ideas? This might be too early to ask, but do you have any ideas of where and how you want to use those gifts sort of in the future?
it's so cool that you asked that now because this is something that has kind of like solidified a little more recently. Um, and it 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 is really difficult looking forward to see like the career opportunities I will have won't be as accepting and encouraging of me incorporating my faith into my work. So me being at Liberty is really encouraging because I'm able to gain and develop a boldness here for that I don't think that I would have developed otherwise. And the more I learn here and the more I develop skills here, the more passionate and like excited I am to use the works of my hands to magnify the works of God's hands. And like that is like my humble hope that I like while I'm here, I want to be excellent. And like I think for the first time these past few years, like I don't just want to be excellent to be excellent. I want to be excellent so that it can glorify him more. And I don't know exactly what that looks like or what God will do with that, but I know that I'm passionate about it. And I also know I have a big heart for children. So hopefully my hope and my prayer, I don't know what God's plan is, but this is mine so far, is I would really love to write and illustrate my own line of faith-based children's books to plant seeds in the minds and souls of the little guys. Because I genuinely feel like today's culture and society tends to treat young children and young minds more like an accessory or like an activity than, you know, a soul that needs to be poured into. It's like, okay, go watch TV. Here, take the iPad, go do this. But like the power of the written word and the visual image is so powerful. And I think that we really need to be like pouring into our children through that. And one way I think I can do that like remotely on a grander scale would be through children's books. So that is my dream.
Hey, I feel like sometimes as Christians, we're almost scared to say our dreams because we feel like we're cursing ourselves, because it's like, as soon as I say it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's selfish and God won't let me do it. But you know, I don't think that's true. And I think that it's good to say those things. And you know, knowing you, you're not going to you're certainly gonna to listen to the Lord and his leading. But I think that would be an awesome thing if God leads you down down that path. And hopefully soon, so my own kids can benefit from your
I would
from
like
your
that
work, because it's true. I feel,
involved. Like
yeah,
circulate it through the elementary department.
I feel like recently I've noticed more having my own kids too. Like there's so many children's Bibles and books that actually more recently are really beautiful illustrations and beautiful art. Whereas like growing up, you and
It was
I sort of, yeah, it was like bubble art. It looked like stickers, you know. So
very mediocre.
yeah. Yeah. So no, that's a really cool thing. And it's interesting too, because so much of art history really was linked to the church, whether it was pictures from the like biblical scenes that were painted, whether it's sort of art in the churches, you know, ancient churches, whether it's stained glass or art or sculptures. And so it's sort of interesting how that was so tied to the church and Christianity. And over time, it's sort of, you know, strayed in some ways, but
Yeah.
cool. Well, we always close with a little rapid fire. And
I'm
so
ready.
I'm going to give you some questions, and you know, full disclosure for the tens of viewers. Normally I come up with these questions ahead of time and I sort of send them out for people to think about, but I was procrastinating. So I scribbled these down last minute. Valerie literally has no clue what I'm about to ask her. So we'll give you some time, but not too long, to answer some of these questions.
Okay.
And I know you don't take yourself too seriously, you know.
All
So
right.
first question. What is your favorite art museum?
Ooh, the Louvre.
You went straight to the most famous art museum in the world.
Yeah, I have been there one time and it genuinely I loved it. I if no one else in the world existed and I could go there and take my time drinking sparkling cider and walk around by myself for hours, I would do that. But
There you
that's not
go.
possible. Anyways.
Well, if you make millions off children's theology books, you can rent out the Louvre for yourself for a day.
Well,
All
sure.
right. What superhero do you feel like you most identify with?
Okay. Some of you um haven't seen Black Widow, but there's the sister. I relate to her because she's got her weird little things.
So the sister of Black Widow.
Yeah, because she's
Okay.
like, this is my vest, and I like my vest, and she doesn't seem like she likes change, but she's also like, she kind of deals with her struggles through humorous moments. I feel like I do that, and also like I don't want to be one of the main people. That I don't want that.
Yeah, too
I
much
want
pressure.
that's not my vibe. I would rather, yeah.
So after a long stressful day in the art studio,
Mhm.
what candy do you most look forward to having to sort of soothe yourself?
Reese's peanut butter cups. I could eat those Johns all day long and like never feel the thirst for water. Like there are certain candies where you're like way too sweet. Like I need water immediately. Those, it's so dangerous. I could go all day long.
Classic.
Classic.
Classic. So Lynchburg's a great place. By the way, side note, my brother is now an employee of Liberty University.
No
Yeah,
way.
he works in the real estate department. So
Guys.
you probably will never see him, but that's funny. So my wife Megan, of course, went to Liberty. So but Lynchburg has changed a lot over the years. So what's your favorite place? This could be like coffee shop, restaurant. It could just be like a place outside. What's your favorite place in or around Lynchburg that you've been to?
There is a bubble tea place called Moon Tea in downtown Lynchburg. And we love to go there because it's so small and the outdoor seating area is so cute and the tea is so good. And it's not that far. So that's my
Lynchburg,
favorite.
Lynchburg's a beautiful place. It's very beautiful. And
Super pretty. Historic.
downtown's cool. Yeah. So when you're gone, what's something that you miss most about Cherry Hill?
Oh man. I miss the people. That's the touching answer. But really and truly, like I miss the vast variety of food options within such a short, like if I'm at home, if I want good Indian food, I have it within 5 minutes. If I
Right.
want good Italian food, I have it within 5 minutes. And all of the above. And that is something that is like, it's not extremely hard to find good food here. It is harder though.
Yeah, there's not the same variety ethnically, at least, I'm
And
sure.
not the same vibe.
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah.
miss people's slight meanness in Jersey.
Yeah.
More of a like, Lynchburg is not a super southern place, but it still has more of the like the average Joe will hold the door for you, like that kind of thing. And there's something just like, I don't know if it says something wrong with me or not. Sometimes I miss just the like straight to the point, move on type energy that you can get at home.
Yeah, there's a bit more edginess around here for sure.
Yeah. Every so often I miss it.
So what would you say now? Obviously this can change probably over time, but right now, what would you say is your favorite book of the Bible?
My favorite book of the Bible. Um, I really like Psalms. And I feel like that's kind of a generic because it's big and there's a lot to gain from it. But like, I just find it such a comforting book because I'm like, this man's going through it, but he's making it through, And it's like, I find it a very relatable book. And so I go back to Psalms a lot, but I think that's my
It's a good answer for an artist.
thanks.
The scientists and mathematicians are probably like Romans.
Yeah.
Um, so this semester, what would you say is your least favorite class?
Ooh, good question. My least favorite class.
She's
I
looking
have
around.
I haven't had any that I've really disliked. I think my least favorite was history of graphic design
Ooh, okay.
because it was online and it's just kind of like it's stuff that I'm glad I know about now. It just ended because it was an 8 week, but man, I was like so bored. But yeah, that was my least favorite.
So, if you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life,
This is such a loaded question.
it is hard because it might not be your favorite movie because
You don't want to
sometimes,
kill your favorite movie.
yeah, or like if it's really an emotional movie or goofy or something, you might not want to. So, one movie the rest of your life, what do you think you would pick?
I was literally thinking about this the other day.
Oh,
It's like dinner time conversation. We talk about these things all the time. I think normally my go-to is Forrest Gump.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but I know that's not the one.
You just can't come up with it right now.
I
You're like,
just
there's
think of
something
it.
else.
It's in there. I just can't think of it. So I'll stick with Forrest Gump because it's a good one.
Yeah. It
There's
has,
humor and emotion.
yeah, it's a great mix. It's a great movie. History, the music in there is great.
Pride and Prejudice. That's my
Nice. Um, I always end with a would you rather question. So, would you rather be able to see into the future 10 minutes or 150 years?
150 years.
You could see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future.
150 years into the future.
That's what you're picking?
I'm very curious. That's why.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
I was thinking about it, and there's that advantage, but it also might just be really depressing and scary if you look 150
See, that's
years.
the gamble. That's the gamble.
10 minutes is more like practical, like, and 150 years is more like, you're right, like big picture, inquisitive.
This might be very selfish reasoning, but I'm thinking like if it's 100 and the years in the future, it probably I'm like, oh, it sucks for them. Like I'm not around, you know. But if it were like 50 to 70 years in the future, I'd be like, nah, I'll say 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. When you see yourself like bagging groceries at Target because you didn't save enough for retirement because you're an artist, you know.
I don't want to see that part yet.
No, there's
I'll
nothing
wait.
wrong with Target. There's nothing wrong with Target. So, anyways, well, thank you, Valerie, for taking some time to talk.
Of
And
course.
I'm sure everyone will now look at the mural on the wall and they'll just. I just love as not being an artist. My sister-in-law is like an art history. She has a master's in art history, and so we went to the Philadelphia Art Museum, and it was incredible because then I just knew so much more about it, and it really makes you appreciate it more. So I appreciate you sharing. It's good to see you even at a distance.
Yeah, it's
Meg,
good to see you.
I'm glad you're having a great time at Liberty, and I'm sure you'll be home over Christmas. And
Yeah,
we'll catch up then.
sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right,
Drew.
Valerie.